Okay, a hugely important skill to develop um, with your graphing calculator, especially when it comes to statistics. And this video will focus just on the Texas Instruments, is how to enter data as a list. Okay, so if you want to take an entire data set and you want to put it in your calculator, you put it in a list. And then at some point, you're also going to want to sort the list. So you could do that process manually, sorting a list of numbers. But you know, that's, you know, that's very time consuming. So the calculator can do it for you, provided, you enter in all the values yourself. So the next two pages here, you know, teaches you on how to enter a data set into a list, into a Texas Instruments calculator. And then after you enter it in, how you can sort it. Okay. So, and I think I'll probably add one more capability here. But let's go ahead and go through with this first. So, uh, we're going to take this data set here and we're going to put it into a list. So let's bring the Texas Instruments calculator. And remember, any screen you're in, you can quit out of it. So I'm just going to quit. Oops, there we go. Quit out of that. And now I want to get to the list editor. So the list editor is in the stat button. You see it has the word list in blue, so that kind of gives you an indication. All right, now we want the edit menu and we want to use the edit option. Notice that next it has sort, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we want to edit lists. So this is the list editor. This is the primary location for you to put a list of numbers that all relate to the same random variable or to the same data set. And the way that this is organized is you've got all of these rows down below for entering data, but the top row, this top row consists of column headings. So notice that you've got the column heading L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L6. L6 is off to the side. There we go. So you can hit left and right arrow keys. Um, So notice too that these list headings, these column headings, L1, L2, L3, L4, there you can get those by number combinations. So if you hit the second button and the number one, it'll print an L1. This blue second button in L2, you can print L2. So this is so that you can reference these lists when you use other functions in your calculator. Okay. So that's how you kind of can use the data that you put into it. All right, so right now, what we want to do is right now I have selected the column heading. I want to move down and select the first row. And I know that this is the first row because it says L1 and then in parentheses, it has the number one. This number one means row one and L1 means list one. So this is row one of list one and it says equals. So I'm just going to start typing in a value. So if I type in the number one, so it says row one of list one equals one. Notice it doesn't print anything here yet until I hit enter. Now it's in there. And now the row that we have selected is row two, which is reflected down here at the bottom. Okay, so we have list one, row two. And I'm going to put an 11.5. Oops. If you make a mistake, you can just go back. There you go, 11.5. And it doesn't actually get entered until you press the enter button. Okay, now because I'm using an emulator, I can use a keyboard. Um, so you can just go through and enter in all of the data that you want, like so. So I know that there's 14 data points or 14 datums, sorry, there's 14 datums because I can select the last datum in the list and it tells me that's row 14. Okay. And if I want to, I can scroll all the way to the top like that. Now, as a quick trick, um, let me show you how you can reference these lists. Okay. So for example, what if I wanted to copy everything in list one and put it in list two? I don't want to type all 14 numbers in. I just want to copy it over. How do I do that? So what I do is I move now to the L2 heading. So the L2 heading is selected. And you'll notice down here at the bottom, it says L2 equals. It's not like when I was down on the first row, where now it says L2 parentheses 1 equals, because in the parentheses, the number inside the parentheses means row number. But if I select the actual column heading, I'm not selecting a row, I'm actually selecting the heading itself. And if I want to copy all these numbers over, I just have to say L2 equals L1. So L2 is going to be equal to everything in list one. Well, how do I type L1 here? Okay, what you cannot do, okay, what will not work is if you actually put like alpha L1. That will not work. And I'll hit enter and it tells you there's an error. Okay. So this does not work. It's like, well, I put in L1, there's L1. Why didn't it take it? So now I'm going to hit the clear button. It's because it has to be L1 where it's like L and a little bit of a subscript one. So how do we get that? Well, I mentioned earlier we have L1 printed above the 1 key. Now, for me, L1 above the 1 key is in blue. If you're using an older calculator, it might be in like an orange color. But regardless of whether it's blue here or orange, I'll use this second key. So the fact that it's blue means I need to use this blue second button first. So if I use this blue second button first, and then I hit the number one, now it puts L1. And notice that one looks like a subscript. Okay, it's smaller. Okay. And so if I hit enter, it'll take everything and copy it over there. There we go. Now, let me show you a common mistake that students make. I'm going to clear this list out. A common mistake that students make is they don't select the column heading like this. Instead, they're in the first row, and then they hit second L1. Okay, so notice what we're trying to do is incorrectly, is we're trying to set one row equal to the data in an entire list. And I think this will give us an error. There you go. Okay, and they say, I'm getting an error and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, what you're doing wrong, let me hit clear, is you're not selecting the column heading itself and then choosing list one like that. All right. So this is how you can enter data into lists and you can reference data in lists. You can do other things too. So let's say here in list three, what if we wanted to take everything in list one and multiply it times two? So I can say L3 is equal to 2 times list one. And then if I hit enter, look at that. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 11.5 is 23. 2 times 6 is 12. So this trick of being able to multiply and do mathematical operations on these columns and have the calculator do all the work for you is immensely powerful. It'll save you a lot of time. Let me go one step further. So let's say I wanted to find the average of these two numbers. You know, what's the average of 1 and 2? Well, to find an average is you add the two numbers and you divide by 2. So what I want to do is I want to take list 2, add it to list 3, and then divide by 2. But be careful because you have to enter the information correctly. And by correctly, I mean you have to use parentheses here. So let me show you how to do it the correct way, and then I'll show you the wrong way. Okay. Now, if we're to think of the average between 1 and 2, the average should be halfway, 1.5, right? So we'd expect this first row here in list 4 to be 1.5. Okay, so let's keep that in mind and let's find the average of these two lists. So I'm going to hit left parentheses. Notice again, I've got L4 selected. Okay, so left parentheses. I'm going to do list 2 plus list 3, right parentheses, divided by 2. Now, in algebra, you've got order of operations. And with order of operations, you have to do what's inside the parentheses first before you do any multiplication or division. So these parentheses force the calculator to add these two numbers together first before you divide by 2. And that's the correct equation for doing an average. And remember what I said about the average between 1 and 2, it should be 1.5, right? So here's a list of averages. All right, now what if I had done this wrong? Okay, let me go up here and clear this out. So what if I didn't use parentheses? What if I just did list 2 plus list 3 divided by 2? Okay, this looks like the correct formula for average, finding the average of two numbers. But what's going to happen here is that with order of operations, division comes before addition. And so what it's going to do is it's going to take list 3 and it's first going to divide every value in list 3 by 2, and then it's going to add the values in list 2 last. And that's going to end up giving us the wrong answer. So let's look at that. So remember, this should be 1.5. Okay. But it's not, it's 2. So, you have to apply, you have to think about the order of operations that you learned in algebra. And if you use parentheses like this, okay, so it's, Gejim-Das. So grouping symbols comes before exponents. It comes before juxtaposition, which is a type of multiplication, multiplication and division. So grouping symbols is at the highest priority when it comes to order of operations. So because this addition is inside parentheses, we have to do the addition first before we divide by 2. And that's the correct way to do an average. Okay. Um, so lastly, we want to be able to sort these lists. Okay, so in order to prevent from having to do it by hand, let's take a look at that. So we'll sort list 1, and we've got list 2 here, which was a copy of it as a reference. Okay, so let me come over here. So if we hit the stat button again, the next option is sort. Okay, there's sort A and sort D. Sort A means sort ascending. So in the same way that you would ascend a flight of stairs, where you start at the ground floor and you go to higher numbers of floors as you ascend, as you go up, this is going to sort your list from lowest to highest. Sort descending means you're starting at the highest floor of a building and you're descending down to the ground level. You're descending down to a lower number. So sort descending will take your list and sort it from highest to lowest. So I'm going to do sort ascending. That's the most common one you're going to use. And if we hit enter, You're like, okay, well, now what am I supposed to do? Well, this is where you put in a list. So we're going to do sort ascending of list one. So hit the second button, followed by the number one key. That'll put in L1 there. Now we can hit right parentheses. And when we hit enter, it's going to say done. And you're like, done? Done with what? Well, let's go back into the list editor. So hit the stat button, edit menu, edit option, hit enter. And you'll notice now list one has now been sorted in ascending order. And you can compare that to what it was here in list two. You can see all of the ones were grouped together, all of the twos, and then a 4, a 6, 6.87. Yeah, this is just sorted in ascending order. This comes in particularly handy when we get into percentiles. Okay. All right. And I guess the last thing to show you is, we could go to each one of these and clear them one at a time. But there is a way that you can clear all the lists at one go. And the way to do that is if you use this memory function over here. Let me see. Is that the only way? Clear list will only clear one list at a time. You could add multiple lists, okay, but that takes a bunch of extra key presses. If you were going to do this, what I would do is use this memory function here and hit second and then the plus key. And you see, I wouldn't use any of these other things, okay? Just go down to the fourth one, which says clear all lists. And don't do any of the others, and especially don't hit reset. Just do clear all lists, the fourth option, and hit enter again. Done. And now if you go to the list editor, you'll see it's completely empty. So that's kind of a quick way to kind of delete everything that you did and start fresh, start over. All right, let me know if you have any questions.